Who are the best top lane champions of the 11-18 Rift? What's up, GameLeap? I'm the Jizz, and we are about to reveal the 10 best top laners of the current patch, and it would be a very wise decision for you to abuse any of these in the next 2 weeks for free LP. Now, you can check out our timestamps in the description, but that's the fast food option, because for each pick we cover, we will give you runes, core items, and a tip to help you on your way. Now, as we get into it, make sure you like the video, and let's go. So the 10th best top laner you can pick for 11-18, this is a champion who got buffed in this patch, and this is URGOT. Now, his Q got buffed, so the cooldown is lower in the first few levels, so in the early laning phase, this is going to be very oppressive to play against because you're against an URGOT who's going to be spamming his corrosive charge at you. This allows you, because of the slow if you do land it, to land your E and then your full combo, and it's actually very annoying to play against. Like, getting hit by it means more now, and also the mana cost is down as well, so if you do miss it, it's less of a big deal, and you can spam more of your corrosive charges in the lane. This has seen his win rate even in higher reloads increase because of the buff alone, and also the item build that URGOT goes, so rushing Titanic Hydra, because the cleave passive is applying on hit with your W, and because you still max your W, this is also very oppressive to play against in lane. It pretty much means that if you ever get close to an URGOT, you are going to be in trouble. Now, of course, you can get kited pretty easily, which is why you go Black Cleaver after Titanic Hydra, and your third item really wants to be your mythic, so Frostfire Gauntlet, and yes, getting kited is the big cuck to URGOT, so to stop that from happening a lot, especially if you're against a ranged top laner, is the actual use of your corrosive charge. So if you think about it, using your Q from max range, this gives the enemy champion more time to actually react to it rather than if you're up close and personal to them. So what you can do as you're going to last hit a minion is actually Q at the same time. So you last hit a minion, you Q the enemy champion, and because they think you're just going to be focused on the minion, all of a sudden your corrosive charge hits, and this gives you a really good opportunity to jump on them. Even against melee champions, you can apply this tactic. If they go up for a CS, you use your Q to pressure them off it. So the big difference between the best URGOTs and everyone else is actually how they use their Q. They don't throw them out as soon as they're off cooldown, they're using high percentage corrosive charges. Now, beating URGOT to the number 9 spot on the countdown is an interesting champion, but in lower elos, he absolutely stomps. And this is GAREN. But what's funny this patch, because every GAREN player has now caught on to the fact that Mortal Reminder is your second item is really good, GAREN actually has a 52% win rate of Master and above. A bit like URGOT, you can get kited to oblivion, but with Mortal Reminder and Strikebreaker still being kind of okay, what you're really about now is just pure damage on one-shotting people. As soon as you land your Q on them and they're silenced and they can't react to it, you pretty much guarantee an ultimate, and if they're squishy enough and if you're fed enough, you will kill anyone. What's also really interesting is that some GAREN players, because your laning phase is actually pretty strong, they're actually running Flash and Ignite. So remember this Ignite teleport business? Well, for GAREN, you do kind of need your Flash because you can get kited. So Flash and Ignite just empowers that laning phase, and people are also running in their runes, as you can see on your screen now, Nimbus Cloak and Celerity for the movement speed when you actually use one of these summoner spells. So it's really strong and obnoxious to play against, and it doesn't matter who you're playing, to be honest, you're not getting away from a GAREN with this setup. Now, the tip for playing GAREN is actually going to be very similar to the URGOT tip. You see, when you go for a last hit on GAREN, the enemy champion is probably going to look to damage you. So one trick you can do if you have your Q ready is to last hit the minion, instantly press Q and jump on the enemy champion. Now, you can also do this, like URGOT, to pressure the enemy champion when they go for a CS. Now, just ahead of GAREN, coming in at number 8, we have one of the most consistent top laners in the entire game, and he has been all season, and this is SHEN. Now, of course, you can still go with the Xpedu setup with Redemption, Turbo Chem Tank, especially after the Redemption buffs, and in EU West, where this build is built pretty much all the time, this has seen SHEN's win rate go up to 55% this patch. But it's not just the build, it's that SHEN is just an all-around great champion. In the lane, he's very strong because of his taunt he has set up for his jungler. He also has a shield, his passive, attack speed, bonus damage in there, and his ultimate, of course, brings so much utility to a team, so even if you are feeding and losing lane, you can still be super useful, and if you're ahead, it's pretty much GG because your influence around the map. Now, one tip for actually playing SHEN, especially into harder matchups, because in the easy matchups, you know, who cares about these? Into harder matchup, if you're against a Teemo, for example, or a Darius, using your shield is so important, and timing it for the major source of damage the enemy champion has. So for Darius is winding up his Q, make sure that if you are in range, you have your passive ready so you can trade with him. This is vital. If you go in there and you just take free damage to your actual HP bar without blocking it with your passive shield, this is one of your big strengths. So you have to use it and play around your passive's cooldown. Now, speaking of one of these ranged champions who would counter every single champion we've talked about so far, this is QUINN, who has been a regular fixture on this top lane countdown, and the simple reason is because she's ranged and because she's actually good. And what's becoming more popular even for Quinn now in the top lane, think about all the bot lane AD carries who build Immortal Shield Bow and then Wit's End. Well, for Quinn in the top lane, this is also becoming the popular build. Well, with Shield Bow, you get sustain, you get damage, you get crit, pretty much everything you want, and you also get a massive shield. And in the top lane, when you do go against bruisers and if you do get ganked, this gives you that 1v2 potential and just the survivability you often need and lack. And then with Wit's End afterwards, well, we all know how good the on-hit is here, the attack speed, the magic resist. Into AP top laners, this is an incredible item. And the funny thing is, with these two items, if you compare this with a Gale Force or Kraken Size, something like that, a really offensive setup, you still don't lose that much damage for it. But just a tip for Quinn, it's more of a mental thing, to be honest, in how you see the game. Just because your ultimate allows you to roam around the map, this doesn't mean you have to. So many Quinn players, if they are actually stomping their top lane, will just roam around the map for the next 20 minutes and allow their opponent to scale back into the game. So if you are winning top lane super hard, again, do not feel as if you have to roam around the map and help your inting teammates stay in the top lane and keep up the pressure. And then once your top lane is completely over, that's when you have my permission to roam. Now, beating Quinn to the number 6 spot, this is just a champion who is so consistent, even more so than Shen, that anyone can pick him up. He's the ultimate autofill top laner, and this of course is MALPHITE. So if you're against a lot of attack damage champions, if you're against an attack speed based champion in the top lane, maybe someone like Tryndamere or Jax, any AD champion, MALPHITE is the ultimate cuck, and I'm sure we don't need to go into too much detail here. Now, the build, your core items you can see on your screen now, but just remember that in some games against these attack speed based champions, you'll want to go Bramble Vest as your first item. And remember that when you do play MALPHITE, using your Q can make you go very quickly because it's like 25% of your mana pool at rank 1 and in the early game. This is why the runes, as you can see on your screen now, this is built around giving you the sustain so you can actually spam your Qs a bit more liberally rather than worrying about going all the time, and this will help you out so much in the early laning phase. And it's actually very annoying to play against, especially if you're an attack damage champion, because you have a MALPHITE just poking you down and you can't really go in because it's a MALPHITE. So make sure you run this setup in your games and you will see the power of the rock. Now, coming in next, this is a champion who might catch some of you by surprise, and this is Graves. Now, the reason I have put Graves in the top 5 top laners for 11-18 is simply because, even though he's been nerfed recently, is simply because he does amazingly well into these attack damage champions, especially those who are close range melee champions, which is pretty much everyone, right? The grit you get, the armor you get, your poke with your Q, even though it's costing more mana these days, and even though your Q costs more mana, this is only going to be an issue if you're spamming it 24/7, which you really shouldn't be. And with the fleet footwork buffs as well for ranged champions in lane, when you hit the enemy champion, you're getting more sustain. This has been great for Graves. Now, in terms of your core items, you want to be going Immortal Shield Bow, followed by Phantom Dancer, and then Lord Dominic's Regard in most games. Now, of course, you can mix and match here. You might want to go Serpent's Fang or the Collector's second if they're very squishy or if they have a lot of shields. It really depends, but for the most part, Immortal Shield Bow is your mythic, and then follow this up depending on what you need. And the tip for actually playing Graves at a high level and winning lane pretty much all the time is to use your smoke screen as a defensive tool, because some inexperienced Graves players might use their smoke screen to poke the enemy champion or to do something, I don't know. But really what you want to do is just hold this. So if an Aurelia jumps on your head, you just smoke screen, she can't see you. Easy. And then you can retaliate with your own damage and escape that situation. Now, for this champion coming in at number 4, after copping so many nerfs this season, after his main item Stridebreaker got nerfed as well, SETT is still performing at a super high level. He's incredibly powerful early on, very annoying to play against, and he's super easy to actually make work and play. And with Gore Drinker as like your substitute mythic, well, it's actually surprisingly good on SETT because this is giving you the sustain so that when you jump into a team fight, you actually survive that initial burst damage the enemy champions throw at you. But just a tip when you are playing SETT, and I've even seen some Master Grandmaster sets do this, starting your W is super troll. Please, getting your E at level 1 is always going to be good, and then even your Q after this at level 2. Please do not get your W first, it does nothing for you. Get your E, then your Q, then your W, and then you are set to go. And once you do hit level 3, try to use your abilities in tandem with one another. Don't just use one ability and then the other 10 seconds later. Try to use all at the same time. This will enhance your power and damage output. Now, ahead of SETT, coming in at number 3 is a champion who has been nerfed in 11-18, but she is still unbelievably broken that CAMILLE has to come in as the bronze medalist. So your passive's cooldown has increased in the early game, which means that during the laning phase, yes, you're not going to get this shield as much, which is important for your trading, and it makes you more exploitable. But did anyone think this is going to stop CAMILLE, who deals half your HP at level 9? No. With Divine Sunder, Ravenous Hydra, and Steroids Gauge as your 3 core items, Camille still has a ridiculous amount of power that this nerf is just like water off a duck's back. It really doesn't mean anything. With Grasp the Undying as your keystone, this gives you enough lane sustain to get out of the early laning phase and get your Sheen, your Sunderer. And the tip for actually playing Camille is to understand that both of your precision protocols are auto attack reset. So if you auto attack in Q, you can auto attack again instantly. That's with both Qs. This is super important for trading and your all-ins, so make sure you master this if you are going to play Camille in this patch. Now, beating Camille is a very similar champion, another grand duelist, and you guessed it, this is FIORA. And the reason FIORA is so good still is because with Gorge Drinker, Ravenous Hydra, Steroids Gauge, and the buff they gave to her passive a few patches ago, all of her power is still here. There are no nerfs this patch. This is why FIORA has to be on this countdown. And as you copy down the runes and the core items I just mentioned, make sure that if you do play FIORA in your games, remember that your ultimate, try to use this when the enemy champion is actually in the middle of the lane or in the open. Using this when they are against a wall or a turret, something like that, makes it very hard to proc all 4 vitals. So try to use this and force the enemy champion into the open, then use your ultimate, and it should be a lot easier to proc all of those vitals, and the damage you do will be nuts. But for another patch, guys, all of these 9 champions, despite being very good and you will definitely win games on them, there is one that beats them all. And this, for another patch in this season, is Riven. No nerfs to her items. No nerfs to Riven herself. She has to be number 1. Just like FIORA with Gore Drinker as your mythic, the damage, the health, the cooldown, it's just too much, to be honest. And because of the Black Cleaver buffs a few patches ago, not only are you reducing the target's armor, you're also getting movement speed, so you have the stickiness to stick to those opponents trying to run away from you. And I'm not sure if you guys remember that buff to Riven's E back at the start of the season where they reduced her E's cooldown by 2 seconds. Yeah, this is still in the game. So in that late game, you're E'ing every 3 seconds. That's pretty balanced, isn't it? And you tell me in the comments, who do you think is actually the most annoying top laner out of this list to play against? Is it Riven? Is it someone else maybe who wasn't on this countdown? Let me know in the comments. And as always, guys, thanks so much for watching this countdown. Please like the video if you did enjoy it. Remember to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss tomorrow's daily upload. And also make sure to check out the GameLeap website on your way out. Links in the description and comment section. Do not miss out on our Challenger tier daily content that we upload. It's all original, it's all fresh, and it will 100% help you improve and become one of the best players in the world. So let's go, sign up. And until tomorrow's video, this has been the